She bullied the new girl thinking she was nobody until she found out who her father really was. When a toxic boss meets her match in a seemingly innocent employee, the power games turn deadly. But the biggest shock isn't the girl's secret identity. It's how she uses it to destroy her tormentor completely. Watch till the end to see Karma deliver the most epic workplace revenge you've ever witnessed. Please subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss a story. Let's dive in. The air conditioning hummed softly in the sleek Lagos office of Meridian Marketing Solutions as Serafina adjusted her designer blazer and surveyed her kingdom. At 28, she ruled the creative department with an iron fist wrapped in a Hermes scarf. Her perfectly laid Brazilian hair caught the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Victoria Island's bustling streets. "Good morning, boss lady," chirped Tolu, her eager assistant, placing a steaming cup of coffee on Serafina's mahogany desk. Serafina barely glanced up from her MacBook. 3 years as senior creative director had taught her that respect was earned through fear, not friendship. Her campaigns had won awards, her presentations left CEOs speechless, and her reputation preceded her like a thunderclap. The elevator chimed, and Serafina's sharp eyes caught movement in her peripheral vision. A young woman emerged, clutching a worn leather bag against her chest like armor. She wore a simple blue blouse and black skirt, respectable but clearly not designer. Her natural hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she moved with the cautious grace of someone entering unfamiliar territory. "Fresh meat," Serafina muttered, her perfectly manicured fingers drumming against her desk. New employees were either assets or obstacles, and this girl looked like she'd crumble at the first sign of pressure. Her lips curved into a predatory smile. She'd eaten bigger fish for breakfast, and this little minnow wouldn't even be an appetizer. The girl's eyes met hers across the open office space, and for a moment, Serafina caught something unexpected. Not fear, but quiet determination. Interesting. Genevieve's heart hammered against her ribs as she stepped into the pristine office space. The job at Meridian Marketing Solutions was her golden ticket, a chance to escape the suffocating expectations of her family and prove she could make it on her own merit. She'd fought tooth and nail for this copywriter position, determined to build her career without trading on her family name. "You must be Genevieve," said Mr. Bancole, the HR manager, appearing beside her with a warm smile. "Welcome to Meridian. Let me show you to your desk." As they walked through the office, Genevieve felt eyes following her. Whispers floated through the air like smoke. She'd grown up in the shadow of scrutiny, but this felt different, professional rather than personal. She could handle this. Her desk sat in the middle of the creative department, surrounded by other copywriters and junior designers. It wasn't much. A basic computer, a small plant, and a stack of orientation materials. But it was hers. "That's Serafina," Mr. Bancole said quietly, nodding toward the woman behind the glass-walled office who'd been watching them. "Senior creative director. Brilliant, but..." He paused diplomatically. "She has high standards." Genevieve studied the woman through the glass. Serafina sat like a queen on her throne, perfectly composed and utterly intimidating. Her office was a shrine to success, awards lining the shelves, framed magazine covers featuring her campaigns, and a view that commanded respect. "I can handle high standards," Genevieve said, straightening her shoulders. She'd been underestimated before. It never ended well for the underestimators. As Mr. Bancole left her to settle in, Genevieve caught Serafina's eye again. This time, she didn't look away. Whatever game was about to begin, she was ready to play. The morning briefing felt like a gladiator arena disguised as a conference room. Serafina sat at the head of the polished table, her presence commanding attention from the 12-person creative team. Genevieve had chosen a seat near the middle, close enough to participate, but far enough to observe. "We have a new campaign for Okonkwo Industries," Serafina announced, sliding a thick brief across the table. "Luxury real estate development in Ikoi. High stakes, bigger budget. I want fresh ideas by Friday." Genevieve's blood chilled. Okonkwo Industries, her father's company. She kept her expression neutral, praying no one would make the connection. Her employment application listed her as Genevieve Okonkwo, using her mother's maiden name. She'd specifically requested assignments that wouldn't conflict with her family's business interests. But apparently, that courtesy had expired. Questions? Serafina's gaze swept the room like a searchlight. Genevieve raised her hand slightly. "What's the target demographic?" Serafina's smile turned sharp. "Ambitious question from someone who hasn't even finished orientation. Tell me, miss." She made a show of checking her notes. "Okafor, what makes you think you understand luxury marketing?" The room fell silent. Genevieve felt heat rise in her cheeks, but kept her voice steady. "I studied consumer psychology at University of Lagos. Luxury purchases are driven by aspiration and exclusivity. I'd need to understand whether we're targeting established wealth or new money to craft the right message." Several colleagues nodded approvingly. Serafina's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Interesting theory," Serafina said coolly. "Let's see if your execution matches your confidence. You'll present your concept to the team tomorrow. Consider it your official welcome to Meridian." As the meeting dispersed, Genevieve realized she'd just been thrown into the deep end with sharks circling. But she'd swum in darker waters than this. Genevieve's fingers flew across her keyboard late into the evening, the office lights casting long shadows across empty desks. She'd stayed behind after everyone else had gone home, determined to craft a campaign that would prove her worth. The Okonkwo Industries brief lay spread across her desk like a battle plan. The irony wasn't lost on her, creating marketing for her own father's company while hiding her identity. But she'd made her choice. She would succeed as Genevieve Okafor, not as Chief Emeka Okonkwo's daughter. "Burning the midnight oil already." Genevieve looked up to find Serafina approaching, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Even at 9 p.m., she looked flawless, not a hair out of place, makeup pristine. "Just want to make a good impression," Genevieve answered carefully. Serafina perched on the edge of a nearby desk, studying Genevieve with predatory interest. "You know, I've been doing this for 8 years. I've seen countless fresh graduates walk through those doors thinking they'll revolutionize advertising. Most of them are gone within 6 months. I'm not most people." "No?" Serafina's laugh was silk wrapped around steel. "Tell me, what makes you special? Your degree from Unilag? Your consumer psychology theories? Or maybe it's that quiet confidence you wear like armor?" Genevieve met her gaze steadily. "Maybe it's the fact that I don't need to tear others down to build myself up." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Serafina's smile became razor thin. How refreshing. Naive, but refreshing. I stood, smoothing her skirt. "I'll be very interested to see your presentation tomorrow. Don't disappoint me, Miss Okafor. I have so little patience for mediocrity." As Serafina's footsteps faded into the elevator, Genevieve realized the war had officially begun. She turned back to her computer, fingers trembling slightly as she typed. Tomorrow would determine whether she was predator or prey. The presentation room felt smaller, with Serafina's intensity filling every corner. Genevieve stood before the wall-mounted screen, her carefully crafted slides glowing behind her. The creative team sat around the conference table like a jury, their expressions ranging from curious to skeptical. "Okonkwo Industries isn't just selling apartments," Genevieve began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. They're selling transformation. The tagline I propose is elevate your story, because luxury real estate isn't about the building, it's about the life you're choosing to live. She clicked to her next slide, revealing sleek visuals of modern Lagos professionals in sophisticated settings. Our target isn't just wealthy buyers, it's ambitious Nigerians who see homeownership as the next chapter in their success story. The room was silent, absorbing her concepts. Genevieve caught approving nods from several team members. Even Tolu seemed impressed. The emotional hook focuses on legacy. These aren't just homes, they're the foundation for the next generation. The photography should capture not just the luxury, but the dreams being realized. She finished and stepped back, pulse hammering. The presentation had gone better than she dared hope. Serafina stood slowly, her expression unreadable. Interesting approach, Miss Okafor, though I wonder if someone so young truly understands the psychology of luxury consumption. Her smile was arctic. Tell me, have you ever actually lived in the world you're trying to market? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Genevieve felt the weight of her hidden truth. She'd grown up in luxury beyond most people's imagination, in a mansion that made Okonkwo Industries developments look modest. But she couldn't say that without revealing everything. "I've done my research," she replied carefully. "Research?" Serafina's laugh was sharp. "How academic." The weekend couldn't come fast enough. Genevieve sat in her modest one-bedroom apartment in Surulere, staring at her laptop screen where her father's company logo glowed accusingly. The presentation had been well received by everyone except Serafina, who'd spent the past 3 days assigning her increasingly menial tasks, photocopying, coffee runs, and filing that any intern could handle. Her phone buzzed with a text from her older brother, Chike. "Dad's asking why you haven't called. The family dinner is tomorrow. You can't avoid us forever." She could, actually. She'd been doing a decent job of it for the past 6 months, since she'd announced her intention to work for someone else's company. The memory of that dinner still stung. Her father's bewildered hurt, her mother's tears, Chike's accusations of selfishness and ingratitude. "I raised you to understand responsibility," her father had said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Okonkwo Industries needs young vision, fresh ideas. Everything I've built is for you and your brother." But that was exactly the problem. Everything handed to her, nothing earned. She wanted to know who Genevieve was without the Okonkwo name opening doors and smoothing paths. Another text from Chike. "Serafina from Meridian Marketing called Dad's office yesterday. Something about the luxury development campaign. Small world, right?" Genevieve's blood turned to ice. Her hands shook as she typed back. What did she want? "Just checking some details about the target market. Dad was impressed someone was doing their homework. He mentioned how refreshing it was to work with thorough professionals." The room seemed to spin around her. Serafina was investigating the client. If she dug deep enough, made the right connections, Genevieve's carefully constructed new identity could crumble like a house of cards. She had to be more careful, much more careful. Monday morning arrived with the weight of impending doom. Genevieve dressed carefully, choosing her most professional outfit, a navy blazer and pencil skirt that projected confidence she didn't feel. The weekend's revelation had her looking over her shoulder at every turn. Serafina was already at her desk when Genevieve arrived, phone pressed to her ear in what sounded like a heated conversation. "No, I need the demographic breakdown by sector," Serafina was saying. Yes, I understand it's detailed information, but Meridian doesn't do half measures on campaigns of this magnitude. Genevieve slipped to her desk, trying to look busy while straining to overhear. Was Serafina talking to someone at Okonkwo Industries? Her father's company was notoriously protective of client information, but Serafina had a way of making people talk. Miss O'Coffer, Serafina's voice cut through the office noise like a blade. My office now. The walk to Serafina's glass sanctuary felt like a death march. Genevieve's palms were sweating by the time she closed the door behind her. Sit, she commanded, not looking up from her computer screen. I've been thinking about your presentation. Very polished for someone so new to the industry. Thank you, Genevieve managed. Almost too polished. Serafina's eyes finally met hers, sharp as surgical instruments. Tell me, where exactly did you work before Meridian? Your resume seems rather sparse for someone with such sophisticated insights into luxury marketing. Genevieve's throat felt dry as sand. I mentioned in my interview that I focused on my studies rather than extensive work experience. I wanted to come in fresh without bad habits from other agencies. Serafina leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled. And your family, what do they think of your career choice? The question felt like a trap door opening beneath her feet. They're supportive. How wonderful. Supportive families are such a blessing, don't you think? Especially when they understand the challenges of building something from nothing. Every word felt loaded with hidden meaning, but Genevieve couldn't tell if she was being paranoid or if Serafina really was circling closer to the truth. The company elevator felt smaller than usual as Genevieve rode up to the executive floor, summoned by Mr. Emeka Fashola, Meridian's CEO. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched the portfolio containing her latest campaign revisions. In the 3 weeks since starting at Meridian, she'd never been called to the C-suite. Mr. Fashola's office was a monument to success. Leather-bound books, awards spanning 2 decades, and photographs with Lagos's most powerful business leaders. Among them, Genevieve's heart stopped as she spotted a framed picture of her father shaking hands with Mr. Fashola at what looked like a charity gala. Miss Okonkwo, Mr. Fashola said warmly, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. Please, sit. I wanted to personally commend you on the Okonkwo Industries campaign. The client was extremely impressed with your insights. Thank you, sir, Genevieve replied, trying to keep her voice steady while her mind raced. How much did he know? Had her father mentioned her during their conversation? In fact, Mr. Fashola continued, Chief Okonkwo specifically requested that you be assigned to the account permanently. He said, and I quote, "That young woman understands our vision better than anyone we've worked with." The irony was suffocating. Her father was praising her work without knowing it was his own daughter's. Everything she'd worked for, all her efforts to prove herself independently, and her father's influence was still shaping her career path. I'm honored by the confidence, she managed. There's something else, Mr. Fashola said, his expression growing serious. I've been hearing some concerns about team dynamics in the creative department. Nothing specific, but I want to ensure our newest talent feels supported. How are you finding the work environment? Genevieve's mind flashed to Serafina's increasingly hostile behavior, the impossible deadlines, and the public criticism disguised as constructive feedback. But complaining would make her look weak. I'm learning a lot, she said diplomatically. Mr. Fashola nodded slowly. Good. Chief Okonkwo is a personal friend, and this account is very important to our relationship. I trust you'll continue to exceed expectations. As Genevieve left his office, the weight of her double life felt heavier than ever. The charity gala at the Eco Hotel was Lagos's social event of the season, bringing together the city's business elite for an evening of networking disguised as philanthropy. Genevieve stood at the edge of the glittering ballroom, watching from the shadows as her carefully constructed worlds collided. She'd been required to attend as part of the Okonkwo Industries account team, representing Meridian marketing. Across the room, her father commanded attention and his traditional agbada, every inch the successful businessman and philanthropist. Her mother glided beside him in elegant gold. Wachike worked the crowd with practiced charm. Fascinating, isn't it? Serafina's voice appeared beside her like a serpent's whisper. The way power moves in Lagos, everyone connected to everyone else in an endless web of influence. Genevieve's breath caught. Serafina looked stunning in a black evening gown that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Her hair swept up to reveal diamond earrings that caught the light like stars. "It's quite something," Genevieve replied carefully. "Take Chief Okonkwo, for example," Serafina continued, her voice deceptively casual. "Self-made billionaire, devoted family man. I've heard he has 2 children, a son who works in the family business and a daughter who recently graduated from university, though, strangely, no one seems to know where she's working now." Genevieve's heart hammered against her ribs. Perhaps she's taking time to find her path. Perhaps. Serafina's smile was razor sharp. Or perhaps she's hiding in plain sight, playing elaborate games with people who thought they were mentoring a nobody from Surulere. The words hit like physical blows. Genevieve turned to face Serafina fully, seeing her own defeat reflected in those cold, calculating eyes. "When did you know?" Genevieve asked quietly. "I suspected from your first presentation. Too polished, too insightful for someone without connections. But I confirmed it last week when I called your father's office. Your brother mentioned how the family was working about their brilliant daughter working for some marketing company instead of joining the family business." The ballroom suddenly felt suffocating. Around them, Lagos's elite continued their elaborate dance of power and influence, oblivious to the small drama unfolding in their midst. "What do you want?" Genevieve asked. Serafina's smile widened. "Now, that, my dear princess, is the right question." The confrontation Genevieve had been dreading finally arrived on a rain-soaked Monday morning. Serafina had called an emergency team meeting, ostensibly to discuss the final Okonkwo Industries presentation, but the predatory gleam in her eyes suggested something far more sinister. "Before we begin," Serafina announced to the assembled creative team, "I think it's time we address the elephant in the room. We have someone on our team who hasn't been entirely honest about her background." Genevieve felt every eye in the room turn toward her. Her colleagues' faces showed confusion, curiosity, and growing comprehension as pieces clicked into place. Tolu's mouth fell open slightly. The junior designers exchanged meaningful glances. "Miss Okofor," Serafina continued, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "would you like to tell everyone why Chief Emeka Okonkwo specifically requested you for his account?" The moment stretched like a taut wire. Genevieve could feel her carefully constructed new identity cracking, ready to shatter completely. But as she looked around the room, at colleagues who'd come to respect her work, at campaigns she'd built with her own creativity and vision, something shifted inside her. She stood slowly, shoulders straight, chin raised with newfound resolve. "My name is Genevieve Chioma Okonkwo. Chief Emeka Okonkwo is my father. I took my mother's maiden name and fought for this position because I wanted to prove myself on merit, not connections." The room erupted in whispers, but Genevieve wasn't finished. "For 3 months, I've endured harassment impossible deadlines, and professional sabotage from someone who knew my identity and chose to use it as a weapon rather than address my work directly. Her gaze locked with Seraphina's. I may be Chief Okonkwo's daughter, but every campaign I've created, every strategy I've developed, every late night I've spent perfecting presentations, that was all me, Genevieve, not my father's money or influence. She turned to address the wider room. I could have walked into any agency in Lagos and demanded a senior position based on my family name. Instead, I chose to start at the bottom and earn my way up. If that makes me dishonest, then I'll own that label. But I won't apologize for wanting to be more than just someone's privileged daughter. The silence that followed was deafening. Then slowly, Tolu began to clap. One by one, her colleagues joined in, until the entire room was applauding. Even Mr. Fashola, who had appeared in the doorway during her speech, was nodding with apparent approval. Seraphina's face had gone pale, her calculated composure finally cracking as she realized her trap had backfired spectacularly. Miss Okonkwo? Or would you prefer Okafor? Mr. Fashola said, stepping into the room. Genevieve is fine, she replied with a small smile. Genevieve, then. I think it's time we discuss your future at Meridian. My office, please. And Miss, he added, turning to Seraphina with ice in his voice, we need to talk as well. As Genevieve walked toward the door, she felt lighter than she had in months. She'd lost her secret identity, but she'd found something far more valuable: the knowledge that she could stand on her own merit with or without her family name. The princess had finally claimed her crown, and she'd earned every jewel in it herself. Behind her, she could hear Seraphina's empire beginning to crumble, one whispered conversation at a time. The game was over, and everyone knew who had truly won. Thank you for watching and supporting us. Your presence here means the world, and we hope to continue bringing you stories that inspire and uplift. Keep shining and never stop believing in your own power.